How's life treating you today?
Very good. You know, I mean, life is life. We all have our ups and downs. I mean, my kids get in trouble like everybody else's
How many kids you got? I'm sorry.
2 that I know of.
Girl, boy?
1 boy and 1 girl. They're
How old
8
are they?
years apart. My son's 26. My daughter, well, he's 20. He just turned 27, and she'll just turn 20. So by the time their birthdays come around, they're about 8 years apart.
So you still with your same wife?
Yeah, 20.
I noticed one thing I like about your interviews. I noticed
28 years, same old gal.
I noticed every time you had an issue with a boss or something, the first thing you did, you had to call your wife.
Call her.
I like that. That was so cool. That every time you, that's so you can see. I watch your work. I gotta call my wife. I told my wife this.
I never went to a promoter. I went to someone and said, I can't make this decision yet. I need to call my wife. I would make the decision and call her and say, this is what's going down.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to do?
That's so
and
cool,
I said,
man.
I'm fucking walking. Well, there you go again. I said, I don't care. I got to live with myself.
That was so cool. Not for nothing. The little things like that you would say stand out to me.
Well,
I was like, wow, that's.
It's a partnership. I think a marriage has to be a partnership. I think whether you're married or not, even if you have a long time live-in, whoever it might be, boyfriend or girlfriend, I don't care what your sexual preferences are. I think if you have that person in your life for any extended period of time, there needs to be no secrets. And the only way to have a successful a marriage or a successful relationship with someone is to not hide things. Don't say, well, I didn't do this, or I'm not I'm not really happy where I am. The day that I'm not happy in the pro wrestling business is the day you'll never see me again, and that's just
right.
how it is. And of course, things go down, and I want my wife to know it. I mean, I called home before we started this interview. I said, "Is there anything I need to know?" She said, "No, is there anything I need to know?" And I said, "Well, call that dentist that I had this cap put on my tooth because it's been bothering me for 6 months, and I need to get in on Monday and get the goddamn thing fixed."
I'm glad the way you put that, this was one of the questions on here. I left it alone with them because I really didn't want to get into it, but I'm going to mention it now that you said what you just said. All right, wrestlers tend to kill themselves a lot because they didn't make it in this business. So I'm glad that you said what you said. The day that this business, you out of it, and that's it. You don't take it the way those guys do.
I'm not going to go into a locker room and be miserable.
That's good. Man.
I'm not going to go in there and be in a bad mood because something happened at my house, or something happened to me that day on the way, or Eric Sims pissed me off about something. No, Eric, you're okay. Anyway, I don't let that interfere with my business. Business is business. Personal life is personal. Do I like some of the things that goes on? No, I don't. But I turned the WWE down on the Hall of Fame for Phoenix, and I had a family meeting out on my patio, and we discussed everything about it. I had a contract with Wizard World at the time, and going back and thinking about it now, Eric, I mentioned that to John Laurinaitis that I had a contract with Wizard World, and lo and behold, 2.5 years later, WWE now has all their people contracted with Wizard World. So they obviously took notes. Well, if Honky Tonk Man's working 14 shows for Wizard World and doesn't want to be in the Hall of Fame, something's going on with Wizard World. We might ought to investigate those guys. But anyway, I had a family meeting, and then I had another family meeting a 1.5 years later when WWE called me and asked me to be part of a Legends thing in Hershey, Pennsylvania, a Legends reunion type thing. And I'm thinking, first of all, I said, sure, it'd be nice. Then I started thinking about Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, who had been seriously injured by those Nexus boys at the time. They called them Nexus, and these were a bunch of young guys they brought in, and they were really, really rough and hard on the people they wrestled. They powerbombed Ricky Steamboat, and he had an aneurysm, almost died. He
Really?
spent how many weeks did he spend in intensive care, Eric? a week, 10 days.
Sounds good.
He almost died.
Wow.
And I had a chance to see him a year and a half ago, and I said, Ricky, what happened with that deal with those guys? And he says, you know, they slammed me down really hard and it gave me a blood clot, and you know, I almost died.
Dang.
I said, why did you do that? And he says, well, you know, I mean, I was with the office and they asked me to. I said, you know, that's the reason I turned them down for the Legends reunion in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Now, they had Nikolai, they had the Iron Sheik, they had Ted DiBiase, they had a couple more guys, and Sergeant Slaughter. But out of all those guys, I was the only guy who they could actually put in the ring because I was still wrestling. And wrestling 50 times a year, and they knew it.
Yeah.
So I figured, I started thinking about it, and I told my wife and kids, I said, here's the deal. If they put me with those Nexus kids, they might take those kids in the back and say, now listen, go out there and really lay it in there and make it look good.
Yeah.
So those kids are going to beat me up really bad and maybe do what they did to Ricky Steamboat. And I've always said I will never leave this business in a wheelchair. I'm going to walk away from this business on my own. I'm not going to let somebody pick me up, drop me on my head,
Right.
and I get carted out. And my wife and kids, they all agreed. Next day, I emailed Johnny Ace, and I said, John, I just have no desire to do it. But I had heard from Mattel like 2 weeks before that. My action figure was supposed to be out in October. This Legend show was in early November. My action figure, and so we go back to mid-October, and I had heard from Mattel that my action figure had been pushed back from 2011 to 2012, and then I turned them down. So I saw the guy from Mattel not so long ago, and he said, well, my Mattel figure's been pushed back to 2013.
Wow.
So when I heard my action figure had been pushed back, it's like, why go there and get beat up by these kids? They're not going to let me win the match, whoever it might be. Why go there and get beat up and my action figure's not even going to be out? You know, I mean, I got to get a little rub too.
Yeah.
If I go back on TV and my action figure's going to be out for Christmas, then it's a good little thing for me to be back on. Because it helps sell the action figure. So there was, you know, some mitigating circumstances that made me say, hey, I'm not interested. So I canceled. And they haven't called me since. And guess what? I don't give a shit.
All right, this is the last question. Anything to leave your fans on behalf of my site?
What was that question now?
Anything to leave your fans on behalf of my site? NoKayFabing.com.
NoKayFabing.com. I think the way you asked the questions of me tonight, and for this interview tonight or today, however it's going to be played, have been very, very different from any of the shoot interviews I've done, which is uniquely different. And I would hope that my fans that are fans of my shoot interviews will listen to this interview not because they want to hear me say Ric Flair's a sorry so-and-so for stiffing everyone in the world and not paying his bills, or to say that every time Dusty opens his mouth he's probably lying. We've been down that road before, and you've asked them some questions that really reveals a different side of a wrestler, especially myself. And I think the way that you have conducted this interview and the way you've probably done others in the past, my fans should be very interested in going to your site and picking up these DVDs to find out the other side of the business, as opposed to, you know, just going off on a rant and a rave about how bad somebody treated you or something like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a lifelong fan. I've watched all these shoot interviews. And my goal is not to do what's out there already. You know, I know what I like. I know what the fans like. Me being a fan, I try to get what I think as a fan the fans want to hear. You know? Yeah,
and that's how I felt with every question that you asked me, because it gave me a chance to say things on a shoot DVD or shoot interview that I've not been able to really say. Like asking about my wife and my kids and things of that nature. And that's important because we do have a life that goes along with this business, but I don't walk down the streets of my neighborhood wearing a jumpsuit with my hair slicked back and a pink Cadillac. I live in a middle-class neighborhood. I live a normal life. I go to the grocery store. I wash clothes. I do the dishes. I do all those things that anyone else does when I'm not on the road. I love being at home when I'm home, but I love being out here doing what I do.
I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate the compliment. It's an honor for me to have this time with you.
Thank you so much for some very, very good questions that have never been asked of me before.
NoKayFabin.com.
NoKayFabin.com. And I said, I don't care. I got to live with myself.
That was so cool. Not for nothing. The little things like that you would say stand out to me.
Well,
I was like, wow, that's.
It's a partnership. I think a marriage has to be a partnership. I think whether you're married or not, even if you have a long time living, my daughter, well, he's 20. He just turned 27, and she'll just turn 20. So by the time their birthdays come around, they're about 8 years apart.
So you still with your same wife?
Yeah, 20.
I noticed one thing I like about your interviews. I noticed
28 years, same old gal.
I noticed every.
I never went to a promoter. I went to someone and said, I can't make this decision yet. I need to call my wife. I would make the decision and call her and say, this is what's going down.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to do?
That's so
and
cool,
I said,
man.
I'm fucking walking. Well, there you go again.
How's life treating you today?
Very good. You know, I mean, life is life. We all have our ups and downs. I mean, my kids get in trouble like everybody else's kids.
How many kids you got? I'm sorry.
2 that I know of.
Girl, boy?
1 boy and 1 girl. They're 8 years apart. My son's 26.
Time you had an issue with a boss or something, the first thing you did, you had to
Call
go
her.
call your wife.
Call her.
I like that. That was so cool. That every time you, that's so you can see. I watch your work. I gotta call my wife. I told my wife this.
I didn't. You know, I never went to.